Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. Everybody who was at the live that I did yesterday, thank you so much for coming out. You have no idea how much it meant to me. It was a great time, and it's really making me considering doing that a lot more, like everyday type of thing. But I'll let you know if that starts happening. For right now, we got Dave Smith and Tucker Carlson sitting down talking about Joe Rogan versus Trump, the ultimate celebrity boxing match. Dave Smith is, of course, going to be defending Rogan, and I am going to be defending Trump. Let's get into this whole thing. I'm going to be showing you just about everything. If you don't remember what happened, Joe Rogan endorsed Robert Kennedy. For those of you that think it wasn't an endorsement, get out of here. Just stop it. Once you have this level of fame, once you say something negative about someone, it ripples through the internet. You say something positive, it ripples through the internet. And if it's a presidential candidate, it helps them tremendously, which is why so many of us want to see Trump on his podcast. Him being there and having a conversation alone would be like an endorsement. But let's get into what Rogan actually said.
That's just what they do. That's politics. They do it on the left. They do it on the right. They gaslight you. They manipulate you. They promote narratives. And the only one who's not doing that is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
You a fan?
Yeah, I am a fan. Yeah, he's the only one that makes sense to me. He's the only one that he doesn't attack people. He attacks actions and ideas, but he's much more reasonable and intelligent. I mean, the guy was an environmental attorney and cleaned up the East River. I mean, he's a legitimate guy. You know, before anybody started calling him an anti-vaxxer, which I thought he was too. I thought he was this nut, this like conspiracy theorist nut, until I read his book. I read The Real Anthony Fauci, and I'm like, what is it? How much of this is real?
It's all real. You guys should have. And somebody was asking for book recommendations. That's another book recommendation. Check that book out because that's very, very interesting. Joe's brought it up so many times that I had to get it on Audible, and I've been listening to it. It's very interesting. Anyway, that's what Joe Rogan said. It hit the internet. Everybody went crazy. And for those of you that think it wasn't an endorsement, guess what? Robert F. Kennedy certainly thought it was an endorsement. But let me go back really quick. This is what Joe Rogan said after he said that, because again, he realized the weight of his fame and he was like, oh no, my phone's going crazy. Spotify's going crazy. RFK's messaging me. Oh no. So he said, for the record, this is an endorsement. This is just me saying I like RFK as a person. Let me tell you, I'll get into it after. And I really appreciate the way he discusses things with civility and intelligence. I think we could use more of that in this world. I also think Trump raising his fist was the most American thing of all time. I'm not the political information guy. If you want that, go to Dave Smith. He actually knows what he's talking about. So that's what Joe Rogan ended up saying. And we are going to be going to Dave Smith. Why not? We're going to hear what he has to say with Tucker Carlson in 1 second. But let me just tell you something. If a politician said this, we would not just be like, oh, well, that's just wasn't an endorsement. We'd be like, oh, that politician's backtracking. You know, they're backpedaling. Oh, they're trying to take back what they said. Just picture that coming. Picture Gavin. I don't want to compare Joe to Gavin Newsom. Picture any politician saying that they like RFK and then picture them the next day saying this. You'd be like, oh, this is a backpedal, obviously. But this is what RFK said. Let me tell you something. For people who don't think this was an endorsement, RFK certainly did. He said, from one legitimate guy to another, thank you, Joe Rogan, for always putting substance first. And then he quoted what Joe Rogan said. He quoted him. Okay? So for all of you that don't think it's an endorsement, cool. But the guy he was talking about certainly does, because RFK knows. Like everybody should know. If Joe Rogan says something, it's going to help you tremendously. Whether you have a podcast or a YouTube channel or you're running for president, obviously. So that's what RFK ended up saying. And then we all know what Trump ended up saying just a few hours after that. They had their little love affair. Robert F. Kennedy saying nice things. Trump's just like, we'll see how many people. It'll be interesting to see how many people boo Joe Rogan at the next UFC event, MAGA 2024. And I found that very, very funny, but also heartbreaking because I'm like, oh no, not these two. No, not mom and dad. They're going to get divorced. Anyway, This is what Dave Smith had to say about the whole thing, sitting alongside Tucker Carlson. Let's get into it.
So quickly that I know going like 4 years ago or 3 years ago seems like ancient history. But if nothing else, I mean, on that alone, the Democrats deserve to lose all power that they have. That they went all in on that. And a lot of Republicans too.
So Rogan, who I just want to say for the record, I really love and I revere as a pioneer in media, really
too.
more than, I mean, Roger Ailes level kind of changed everything.
Yeah.
So I just always want to say that because I really believe it. But he seemed to endorse Bobby Kennedy. Then he comes out and says, no, I just like Bobby Kennedy. I like Bobby Kennedy too, for the record. He's a nice man. But I was not endorsing him, Rogan said. And I don't really like talking about politics that much. I'm summarizing. But if you want to know like what I think, just listen to Dave. Which I thought was kind of funny and cool that he said that. But give us your assessment of Bobby Kennedy. Like what role does he play in this race, if any?
Well, by the way, so when Rogan tweeted that, and I mean, like, it's just, you know, like I couldn't even look on my phone for like hours after that because it's just like, and he texted me. It was one of the funniest texts I've ever gotten. Rogan texted me and he goes, oh, I didn't even realize that I stirred up a whole riot on Twitter, but I sent all the looters to your house.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Which was, I was like, yeah, that is really what, but I was like, I'll take them. I love this. You know?
I like the looters.
But also the moment really is, it's because Joe is such a, like, he you know, I know him pretty well. We're like pretty good friends at this point. And he is exactly what you see.
Yeah.
Like that's him.
I've noticed.
Everybody who, if you watch the show, you already know who he is. So it's like, he doesn't even think like, I'm going to be making an endorsement today on my show about which candidate I want to throw my people's support behind. He literally just, someone asked him a question and he was just having a moment. Like he was just like, I do like this Bobby Kennedy guy. You know, he seems kind of like he's read books about stuff and he wants to discuss ideas and not just like personal attacks. And I really like that.
I agree with that.
And yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with that too. I also just, by the way, I mean, I was just so furious at Trump supporters who were like giving Rogan shit for that. And then I just thought it was maybe the stupidest thing Trump's done in the campaign so far was that he posted on Truth Social attacking Joe Rogan for it. And it's like, man, is anyone around him to just be like, no, you don't go to war with Joe Rogan.
No, that's the teachers union. You should be
right.
Like, what?
But it's also like, even whether he's supporting you or not, that's your teachers union. You know, he's again, like I said before, it's not left versus right. It's dissident versus the regime. And this is the guy who cracked the corporate media. He's the guy who cracked the state's monopoly on information.
That is true.
So come on, what are you doing here? And he said also, it's just so removed. And it's really just the flaw in Trump is that he said, it'll be interesting to see how much Joe Rogan gets booed at the next UFC event. And you're like, do you really think Joe Rogan's going to get booed at okay. All right. I know that Donald Trump, I know how your mind works, and it's there's great things about it, and then there's things that hold you back. But I know that you think that since they love you at the UFC event, they're your people, and they'll hate anybody who's not supporting you. But actually, they really love Joe Rogan, and they're not going to be booing him. And it was just so stupid to fight this fight with him. Anyway, you know, to the Bobby Kennedy stuff, when he first started running, and I had him on my show. And I was just like, I just loved the guy. And I thought, you know, his positions.
So he just goes on to say that he loved the guy. The second time he was on his show, though, they argued a little bit, and it was over Israel and the United States of America supporting Israel. Dave doesn't like that. He's pro-Palestine. And then he talks about, you know, people having this loyalty to Israel, and he doesn't understand why. And it's just so, man, I keep on, I'm just going to get off topic for a quick second. Kensington, Philadelphia is like a wasteland. New York is going through a terrible time because of illegal immigration. Chicago, people are suffering. The residents are suffering. It's all to do with drugs and illegal immigration. Both things are coming from the border. The fact that there are people who are as knowledgeable as Dave is that are not focused at all on Kensington, not at all on Trank, not at all on how it's getting in, not at all on, it's so baffling to me. So I do kind of have this view of maybe we should just focus there. You don't, like, maybe it's like, you know, you have a kid and they want to eat dessert. You don't get any Ukraine or any Israel until you finish your Kensington, Philadelphia. Okay, did you finish your war vets? Are your war vets good? Or your war vets aren't good? Okay, well then you still don't get any. I don't think this is hard. Should be focused on America. That's it. But that's just me. I know a lot of people don't like that stance and they want to help everybody and all of that nice stuff. Some people are virtue signaling. Some people have it in the depths of their heart. Let's just get into what Dave was talking about. Here's the thing when it comes to Trump. Why on earth does Dave Smith think that Trump can't go at Joe Rogan? Trump went at the CIA and the FBI and NSA and the Democratic Party and defense contractors and his own party. What? But Joe Rogan's off limits. This is coming from someone who loves Joe Rogan. But you have to be crazy to think that Trump is just going to be like, well, that guy's off limits because his podcast got real big and it's done some great things. The guy fired the head of the CIA. The guy, what was it? The director of the FBI? He fired him. Chuck Schumer said, hey, they got a lot of ways to get back at you. And he said, I don't care. I don't think that guy cares to go at a podcaster, no matter how big the podcaster is. I mean, that's Trump. That's why people love Trump. Fearless, willing to go at anybody, willing to call anybody out. If they cross him, if they're doing something that's against the American people, he's always willing to call them out. So why on earth would Joe Rogan be off limits? Here's the thing about Dave. Not even just Dave. Most people. I always tell you about my biases, and I wish he would go into that conversation exposing his biases. He really likes RFK, except for one little tiff that they had, and he really loves Joe Rogan because Joe Rogan has helped his career quite a bit. I wish he would start on that and then talk, because it's very apparent that he has a deep bias. I mean, he loves Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has him on the podcast all the time. 2 episodes in 1 week at one point. It was pretty crazy that he did that with Dave. And also Dave was celebrating the fact that Trump was being treated badly by a libertarian crowd when Trump went and visited the Libertarian Convention. It's like, just expose your biases, man. It's okay. People will still listen to you. In fact, I feel like, and I don't know if this is true, I feel like they listen to you more because you're willing to be honest about where you stand on things. And you're not fence sitting. You're like, this is where I'm at, but I can still think. I can still think of the whole landscape. You know what I mean? That's just me. Very interesting stuff. And again, I think Dave Smith is wrong in regard to Trump, to Rogan. Of course he's going to do that. He'll do that to anybody. He doesn't care. And now that he's back on X, I hope he does it to everybody. I hope he goes so hard when he's on X. Oh, I hope he just lets it fly. I hope he gets at people. I hope he tags Kamala Harris and things. I hope he posts memes about. I hope he does, man. That's what we all love about Trump, is that he is a incredibly massive middle finger to the establishment. He's he's the middle finger that all of us want to throw up to the establishment, but they never see it when we do. We have our fingers up, but they never see it. And Trump was the middle finger incarnate. And it was like, perfect. Get him in front of the what? Clinton, Bush, Obama, get him in front of all of them. Middle finger, get him in front of all the NATO leaders. Give it to him. Get in front of these agencies. Give it to him. That's why we love Trump. So don't expect Trump to pull back just because it's Rogan. That's just me. And again, you know my bias. I got a Trump sweater over there. I got a Trump sweater over there. I made them myself. Like, come on. Anyway, just found it interesting that they talked about it a little bit. I found it interesting. Tucker Carlson's like, let me just say really quick, I love Joe Rogan. It's nice that people do that. It's nice that Joe's gotten to a point that when people talk about him, they have to It's almost like when people talk about Israel. You ever heard someone like bring up Israel and they're like, let me tell you something. I love Israel. I love the people there. I've gone there many times and it's a fantastic place. And then they say what they have to say. Like they're like, let's just stay out of hot water here. It's very interesting. Joe Rogan's the Israel of podcasts. Oh my God. Kidding. Of course. This is his face. This is his face, people. You see it all over my channel. Anyways, guys, I just wanted to bring that to you really quick. That is what's going on. That might be the last time that we hear about this whole back and forth between Joe Rogan and Donald Trump. And honestly, for everybody that wants Trump on the podcast, I do not think it's going to happen. Joe Rogan has pulled back on politics. Not completely. He still brings stuff up, but he's definitely not doing an endorsement. And I don't think we're going to see him have any presidential candidate on his show ever again, unless it's Dave Smith running as a libertarian. That's just straight up. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, and other than that, I'm out.